What's good, everybody? Welcome in to the Early Wedge, part of the Early Edge universe. Every single Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, we do this live. And if you don't catch us live, you can always catch us on demand before Thursday morning. This week, the fallout from the PGA Championship at one of the most historic golf courses in America, Colonial, the Charles Schwab. And there are a lot of big names playing this week. I'm talking Scheffler, Morikawa, Hovland, Spieth, Finau, Homa. They're here. Let's take a look at the odds before I bring in the stars of the show. And once again, Scotty Scheffler, plus 400. The sportsbooks are making it impossible to bet him as a winner. There you see Tony Finau and Jordan Spieth and Victor Hovland, the next betting favorites. We've got a lot to unpack. Let's bring in the stars of the show. You know him. You love him. And first and foremost, he is the counselor of cash, Nejad, coming off a very nice live bet on Thursday night, plus 4,600. How have you spent your money this week, sir?
Well, I'm just rolling it over to the Charles Schwab Challenge, of course. No hangover. We're going right at it. I absolutely love this tournament. And yeah, we hit the live play. I mentioned it on the Early Edge at 10 a.m. on Friday morning. And then, of course, I had tweeted it out the night before. We had some guys in contention, Patrick Cantlay, namely. He was sort of lingering around the leaderboard from our early wedge picks. But sometimes it's the live bet. And frankly, in this tournament, if some of these top guys stumble, there might be a live bet in play there too. So let's just wait and find out.
All right, we will wait and find out. Bitsy says, all hail EC. All kidding aside, he is the hottest capper in the Early Edge universe. EC, welcome back to the Early Wedge.
Boy, Coach, it just is, my dream week continues. I mean, we saw what happened last week, and then I had Koepka with a pre-tournament bet last week. I had that parlay, the top 20 parlay, which hit, and the showdown, and now I get to be on Early Wedge. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this.
You become like the Michael Block of Early Edge. Like everything that's happening good is happening to you. It's amazing. But hey,
I just hope my story goes on longer than his.
Well, we know it's going to happen one more week, and there'll probably be another Michael Block sighting in the Early Wedge a little bit later. Just a hunch from a guy who might know what the show is going to look like. All right, let's get into it. Storylines that could affect the betting lines. And we know at the top, Nejad, it's always going to be Scotty Scheffler. And I've never seen a runner-up at a major get less attention than last week. If you ask people, where did Scotty Scheffler finish? He finished second last week, but nobody was talking about him. Start us off with your storyline.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason was because he had one slip up, one bad day, and he was just sort of fighting for relevancy the entire Sunday when guys like Rory and, of course, Brooks Koepka were ahead of him, and Corey Connors, of course. You know, it's interesting because in this tournament, it's another one of those cases. We've had a lot of them where Scotty or Rahm is at the top, and it's like, man, this betting board is tough because we know we have an extreme favorite, but then it's kind of like everybody else. It's the field. I'm just curious which one of these golfers step up, and I'm not even necessarily talking about the second tier that contains like a Sam Burns or a Colin Morikawa, Tony Finau. I think in this tournament, I think it's live for somebody in that 50 to 60 to 71 range to maybe take it down. And listen, let's level set. These days, it's the 30 to 1 odds and shorter that tend to take down these tournaments. But we witnessed it with Wyndham Clark. We've witnessed it on a number of occasions where some of these long shots can contend down the stretch. And I think this might be the tournament where that happens.
I think you could be right. It's starting to get very, very frustrating when I open up my sports book and the top 6 guys for a top 10 or a top 20 are minus 120, minus 130. They've really adjusted for the top guys, and I don't like it. But, EC, if those top guys, especially the top Texans, Scheffler, Spieth, if they stumble this week, what can we do with that?
Well, I don't know if I would go as far down the board as Sia said. I mean, I obviously would trust him with his picks. He's like the GOAT with picking all these winners. But I'm not going that far down the board, but I think there's value to be had in the middle tier. Now, if you really want to play Scheffler and Spieth at the top, Coach, you might want to cover your ears for this. The parlay strategy actually is a thing. If you go look at my ticket that I put on Twitter of how I bet Brooks Koepka last week to get extra value, it's risky. But, Coach, if you want to play Scheffler and Spieth at the top at such low odds, maybe you do a winner parlay with something else, another team that you like. And if not, I think there's a lot of great values in the middle of the odds board.
It took you all of 5 minutes to tick me off. That's a record for you. That's a record for you. Oh, Scott says golf coach is the GOAT coach. I agree with you, Scott. Big Cheesy, who's the personal fan club of EC, he says EC is the early edge capper of the month in May. That probably is true. Rebecca, our girl Rebecca, says EC and Michael Block can share a 30 for 30 episode. That would be something else. That would be something else.
If there's one person who had a better week than me last week, it was Michael Block.
Amazing. And again, his golf course is 10 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. His assistant golf pro was my son's first coach, and he left our club to go to that club a year ago. It's amazing. It's amazing. So let's get into it because we have boards. We have reasons that you come here to watch the Early Wedge, and it's not to hear us just rap on about all the different celebrities that we know or don't know. All right, DFS, very, very popular. And we have one of the absolute very best in the country at doing this. He hosts at least 2 or 3 different shows. He's on every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere. But he is on our team. See ya. Give me 3 and a fade.
Yeah, I'm excited about this week. There's actually a lot of guys I really like. I think pricing is kind of incorrect. I don't know how else to put this, but there's a lot of guys that I think are mispriced. And I'll get into, there's one of them on my board that I definitely think is mispriced here. But let's start with Justin Rose. You're going to hear his name a lot throughout this show. I think Justin Rose is primed for another win, and emphasis on the word another, because he won the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. But what's really great about him is no matter how you look at it, whether you go strokes gain metrics, recent form, whether you go course history, or whether you go his ability to close on a Sunday, he checks all of those boxes. I'll start real quick. The strokes gain metrics look good. The history here is great. He won here in 2018, third place in 2020. And again, he's just coming in with that type of form where he is closing on Sundays. If you look at the PGA Championship, the Masters, the Players, top 20, and all those, 2 of those were top 10. So I really like Justin Rose's price here at 9,300. He'll be a little popular, but nothing over the top. Christian Bezuidenhout, everybody knows I've mentioned him before. He's not a guy I usually back, but in this particular case where I'm really putting an emphasis on approach and putting, Bezuidenhout really makes a lot of sense at 7,700. And then finally, my guy Carson Young. Listen, he's been on my board before a couple of times, actually. This is now his 3rd appearance on my DFS board. 6,300 is a misprice. We know at the U.S. Open qualifier, well, maybe we don't know. It was tweeted out all over Twitter yesterday, but Carson Young shot a couple of amazing scores to qualify for the U.S. Open, but even without that, he has been very good. And when he's been missing cuts, it's on the number in this field. I expect him to make the cut. 6,300 is a steal. And then finally, my fade, it's Max Homa. With respect to Max Homa, it's not that I hate him or anything, but at 10,100, given his erratic play of late, I'm just not interested in investing in him. So he's a fade for me.
Do you hate anybody, Sia? Honestly, do you hate anybody?
It's a good question. I'd have to stop and think about that. I guess the answer is no. It's a good question. It's a good philosophical question. Maybe I don't. Maybe that's why I stay so positive. And Coach, maybe that's why you stay so positive.
Well, I do have to deal with buckets and EC, so there's that.
Yeah,
speaking of EC, I see Sia's. EC, explain yours.
Well, I like Matt Neesmith at 7,100. I mean, he's getting better his last 3 weeks, 35th to 30th to 23rd. He's gained strokes in every category at the PGA Championship. The first time he's done that since the Shriners Children's Open in the fall, where he finished at T2. So Neesmith on the rise, 2 made cuts in 3 appearances here. And as Sia said, exactly my philosophy with these DFS picks. You just want guys who are going to make the cut and maybe make a run on the weekend. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, last week, and I had a few different lineups, always with one guy at least who missed the cut. It kills you. You can't win. You can't cash. You need all 6. So that's the goal here. I like Brendan Todd a lot. I know that we'll probably debate this one throughout the show. 8th place here a couple years ago, 3rd place here last year. He had an 8th place finish at the elevated Wells Fargo the other week, despite losing more than 4 shots off the tee. He has 6 straight made cuts before the PGA Championship. And if the putter is on, like at Wells Fargo where he gained 8 strokes, watch out. Tommy Fleetwood's a guy that you talk about consistent, gained strokes in all categories in his last 3 tournaments, where he's gone T15, T5, and T18. Gained strokes on approach in 13 of his last 15 tournaments where tracked, which is just amazing. He's gained off the tee in 5 of his last 6, made 8 straight cuts and 11 of 12 on the PGA Tour this year. And at that price, you just want somebody who's going to play the weekend and potentially be top 20 or higher, and that's my goal with Fleetwood at 9,200. Now, the big fade here. Now, Sia said it for Max Homa, who I really like this week. I'm fading Victor Hovland. That price, if you don't think a guy's going to win or finish in the top 5, which I don't, on Hovland, you got to fade him. He's finished 23rd and 21st here, which is fine. But unless this course is magically surrounded by a body of water, I'm fading Viktor Hovland. He doesn't generally do well unless it's a coastal course. Last weekend being the exception. I'm sorry, at this price, Coach, I'll pass.
I agree with you. I mean, this is a hefty price. I was getting ready to say Rochester, Lake Erie. No, I don't think there's water there. He's a great wind player. I think more the wind than it is the water, because at the water courses, there's a lot of wind. So I think he's really good in the wind. His ball flight's very, very low. And maybe that's why he played well last week. Who knows? All right, I like all those. Get him down. All right, now we're really getting into the meat and potatoes of the show. But before we do that, I got to pay these two guys. They're very, very expensive. Here's a word from one of our incredible partners.
Get breaking news.
Big news coming out of the NFL today.
Highlights and instant reaction.
The largest final round comeback in Tour championship history. We're down to the final 4.
I just want to take time to analyze greatness.
Talk winners and losers with a guy who's already a big winner.
CBS Sports HQ. It's all sports all day long.
Scott just said, did coaches say he agrees with EC? Yes, I know, Scott. Hell has indeed frozen over. Eric says Lake Ontario is near Rochester, Coach. I did not know that. I didn't care, but I didn't know that. All right, let's get into it. There is a market that Nejad absolutely dominates, to the point that EC didn't even feel worthy of playing in this category, and neither do I. Do not ruin my flow right now. Now you can speak.
Thank you, Coach. I just want to say how I feel going against Sia in FRLs is like going against Tiger Woods in his prime, where you would try to bet against Tiger when he was winning like 5 out of 6 tournaments. That's how I feel. Nobody's going to listen to my first round leaders against Sia, who's the GOAT. I mean, the best I've ever seen at doing this. Just want to say that.
Okay. That was a wasted 15 seconds, but thank you. All right.
I didn't think so, Coach. I thought it was great. I thought that was, in fact, can we clip that and post it all over Twitter? I'd appreciate it.
Of course you did.
Thank you.
All right. Give me a few names, because we have cashed. We've only been on the air since the 1st of January. That's it. 4 months, 5 months. And we've cashed a lot of these. Explain yourself.
Yeah. First of all, stay tuned to the end of the show. And I'll parenthetically note Aaron Rye at 110-1, because I do have 2 long shots at the end of the show. For those of you that don't know, we did hit Aaron Rye in the long shot section just 3 weeks ago as a first round leader. So I've got 4 here, though. Sam Burns, I think, is really interesting. I think he's interesting in DFS. I think he's interesting as an outright, but I certainly think he's interesting as a first-round leader. I'll note that all of these guys are going off in the morning, where I do think the conditions will be better. 3,500 for Burns and Rose, but I think Sam Burns, as a previous winner, I think he has spike potential. If you look at his metrics, last week wasn't very good, but the ball striking is sort of back for Sam Burns. And what I love is how hot he can get with the putter. At match play, he was unbelievable with the putter. At the RBC Heritage, unbelievable with the putter. That's really what we're looking for, not just for 4 rounds, but specifically for 1 round. So a guy whose ball striking is back, who has figured out this tournament because he won it last year, and who can get extremely hot with the putter. I mean, it's the recipe for a first round leader. Next is Justin Rose. I already sung his praises, but I'll tell you, Justin Rose, if you look at his putting in particular over the last 24 rounds, he's 5th in this field, and he's got the ball striking to go with it. Very comfortable with this course as a 3rd place finisher in 2020 and a 1st place finisher in 2018. I really like the form coming in. So in the outright market, I like him. In the first round leader market, I like him. Seabass, Christian Bezuidenhout at 65-1. I like him. And this goes back to the hot putter thing. Spike potential, first round leaders. I'm not always so focused on the putter, but on this course, it does seem that the first round leaders really have that true spike potential with the putter. And Seabass has been red hot with the putter, red hot on approach. It's a course for him. I like it. Sam Stevens is sort of the putter exception. He's 80-1. I think he's a great play just in general. The problem with him is he has lost with the putter pretty significantly over his last 7 tournaments. However, we've seen even the worst of putters actually be okay. Steven Yeager is a good example of this, where he's lost 11 out of his last 12 with the putter, but on round ones, he does spike. I think he's a decent play, but Sam Stevens' ball striking, his around the green play, it's okay. It's the putter that's a problem, but for 18 holes, I think it's worth it at 80-1.
All right. And for those of you brand new, or you're just tuning in for the first time, we don't expect you. Whatever your unit is, let's say it's $100. Do not put $100 on these first round leaders. Split them into 4 parts. Maybe put one total unit on all four.
If not less, because these are gimmicky bets at very long odds. You could do a half a unit and be just fine.
100%. All right. See you. Thank you very much. Now, you talk about the meat and potatoes. The meat and potatoes of this show, I tell you all the time, I will die on this ledge. Head-to-head matchups. They're not sexy. They are fun, and you only got to beat one dude. That's it. So, EC, how about we start with you? What are the head-to-head matchups that you found? And please let the people know what sportsbook you found it at while you're giving your take. Go.
You bet, Coach. Let's start with Brendan Todd, a player that I like that apparently Sia does not, at plus 102 on FanDuel against Steven Yeager. Now, Yeager has 4 straight top 50s, but he played here once at Colonial, missed the cut last year. The course history is the difference. I talked about Brendan Todd here, 8th 2 years ago, 3rd last year. I mean, that's significant. If the putter pops, as I mentioned earlier, watch out for Brendan Todd. Sia's betting that he probably won't pop. I think that it might. So I'm rolling with Todd there at plus 102 on FanDuel. Then this one I really love. Chris Kirk at minus 126, also on FanDuel over Siwoo Kim. I like Chris Kirk this week. I think he's going to be solid, a top 20, top 30 guy. I don't think he's a winner per se, but Siwoo Kim just stinks here. He's played 6 times, 4 missed cuts. He withdrew once and a 66th place finish. Can't even say that easily. It's not good. Siwoo Kim, not going to pop this week. Chris Kirk at minus 126. There is value there for a guy who is steady Eddie. And then a player who Sia is who's fading. And we're a little different this week. Max Homa at plus 126 on FanDuel over Sung Jae Im. Listen, Sung Jae's been red hot until last week when he missed the cut at the PGA. And I know I'm going to get this. Sung Jae plays all the time. This is his 7th week out of 8 that he has played, and he's traveled around the world doing so. You have to think fatigue is going to play in here. Max Homa, one of the better wedge players on tour, and there, I would say, are 11 holes where a wedge could come into play, under 150-yard approach shot. I think Homa has a chance to do some serious damage. You're getting plus money for that. I think why not take a shot?
So where all around the world has Sung Jae been playing, if it's not in the United States?
I believe he played in the Korean Masters the other week and then flew back when he won that tournament.
Oh, he won that.
It's a long trip.
He won that tournament.
It's a long trip.
Oh,
and he missed the cut the next week.
He won that tournament.
He did.
Interesting. By the way, see, have you noticed? I guess what's that saying they have, that imitation is the greatest form of flattery, something like that.
That's right. Yeah.
I've never heard in the history of working with EC him say pop ever, and all of a sudden he's saying pop, just like you do in your takes. Pop. You've never used that term before ever until today.
Expanding my vocabulary.
Clearly pop. Hey, Mom, pop. All right, I'm going to go next. I got all these at DraftKings, and I love absolutely every one of them. Sam Burns. Now, if you look at the history of Sam Burns, when he goes back to a place where he's had success, usually he does it again. Valspar, here. He's the defending champion. Oh, by the way, beat Scotty Scheffler a year ago. When Scotty was going bananas, he beat him in a playoff, and they're best friends. Cam Davis, I love him over Grillo this week. Sung Jae Im. I do not feel the same way that EC does, but we're not playing against the same guy. I think Victor Hovland will have a big-time letdown this particular week, because whenever you compete and you contend at a major, the next week is very, very difficult. And then Chris Kirk, he had a great year here last year. I'm fading Taylor Moore only because he's really young. He's been playing great. Yes, he just won. Yes. But there's a lot of these courses that some of these players have not seen. I'll take course history over no course history. Counselor, you're up.
Let's start with Justin Rose again, minus 108 over Russell Henley. And here's the thing. Russell Henley should have a pretty good tournament. He's really popping. I think he's a great course fit, but I think Justin Rose is live to win this tournament. And I can't say the same about Russell Henley. It would shock me, truly, if Russell Henley won this tournament. It wouldn't shock me at all if Justin Rose wins this tournament. So it's one of those things where I think both of these guys could finish in the top 20, if not the top 15. But for me, it's Justin Rose eventually pulling away from Russell Henley. So as a dog, I mean, I'm going to take that every single time, given the analysis that I have on both of these guys. My next one, Seabez over Brendan Todd. Listen, I don't have a big problem with Brendan Todd, but when I look at the metrics that I'm really focused on, weighted tee to green, weighted approach, putting, greens in regulation, I am just more inclined to take the recent form here as opposed to the course history. And I'm getting Seabez as a dog at plus 100 over Brendan Todd. Looking at Brendan Todd's form, I do think he can rekindle the Brendan Todd magic on this course, but not to the extent where it completely reverses his recent history. So give me Seabez as a dog here as well. And then finally, this is a pedigree play. KH Lee minus 130 over Nick Taylor. We've seen Nick Taylor, quote, pop, as EC likes to say. But I've seen KH Lee do it a lot more often. When I compare the metrics with these two guys, KH Lee wins in that department, but he also wins in the pedigree department. I think this is a great course fit for both of these guys. But KH Lee is the better player. So at minus 130, if this is minus 150, it's probably a stay away. Too big of a favorite. But minus 130, we're getting value here. So I'm going to go ahead and take KH Lee.
All right. Rick says he loves. Yes, EC, go.
Sorry to interrupt your flow there, Coach. I would like to challenge you each to a showdown. Coach, I would like Ricky Fowler over Sam Burns. And Sia, I would like Brendan Todd over Christian Bezadenhout.
Sia, you can go first.
I mean, done deal. Done deal. I'm in 100%, Coach.
I mean, I really have to think about it. Hit the music, Snake. Let's go. It's gonna be a showdown. I got to get back on the horse. I had a rough week this week when it came to showdowns, but financially I had a great week. But showdowns, it's all about pride. It's not about the dollars. Like I said, I spread it around to those less fortunate, and I feel good about that. Sia, I will. Yeah, go ahead, Sia.
No, I'm sorry, because you wanted us to clarify which books these are at. So the first one, the Rose over Henley, is FanDuel. The next two are at DraftKings, and I don't know if we want to field some of the matchups that we see in there, but I just wanted to point those out at the very least.
Thank you very much. By the way, I do need a very special thank you, Sia, to you, because the $4,000 that I won, it's gone. I had to spend it. My poor dog had 16 teeth taken out yesterday.
Oh, man.
Oh, this poor thing is laying next to me. He can't even get out of his bed. But it took all of it. Dogs are expensive. And I always said I would never be that guy. I'll never be that guy spending thousands on a dog. But when you have a daughter who loves said dog, you'll spend every last dime that you have. I promise you that. Dad goals. All right. Now, we've done the head-to-heads. We have 2 winning showdowns already. They'll probably be paid by Friday. So where do we go next? I know where we go. Finishing position. So what this is, it could be a top 40, a top 20, a top 10, top 5, anything but a winning bet. EC, start us off.
Well, I'm going to roll with, let's start with the top 10 here. I think there's some great odds. Coach, I know you like Cam Davis at plus 490 on FanDuel. I mean, he's been rock solid in his last 6 tournaments, 3 top 7s and a 7th place here. I think he is ready to pop again this week, as we talked about, when the putter's really good for Cam Davis. If he can turn it around, he has a chance to go very big. And at plus 490, these are odds. I mean, my eyes just get super excited to see that. Couple of top 20s. Well, we just talked about Ricky Fowler. I mean, I just took him in a showdown against you. He wasn't good last week. Just missed the cut on the number, which is frustrating, but you're getting plus 145 for a top 20. He had 5 straight top 20s before his missed cut last week. The course history here isn't amazing. He's 3 of 9 finishing in the top 20, but he's gained strokes on approach in 12 of his last 14 tournaments dating back to the fall. And that is a category that I always look for when trying to find guys who will do well that week and finish towards the upper part of the leaderboard. And then we talked about Chris Kirk a little bit earlier, also plus 145 on FanDuel. He's top 20 here in 7 of 12. He won here in 2015, and he has 5 straight made cuts in stroke play events. No top 20s, but he's been consistent. I think at this price, I'm willing to take a shot that he has a bigger week than he has of late.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Ricky Fowler. Ricky. I love Sam Burns this week. Top 10, plus 130. There's very few top players that have plus money in front of them for a top 10. The books have made them almost impossible to bet. You just really can't. Tony Finau, love him. Last year, he was T4 at this particular tournament. And Finau was one of those guys that when he goes back to a place that he likes, he usually plays pretty well. Plus, he's a low-key savage competitor. And when he misses a cut and shoots, plus 15 last week at the PGA Championship, he didn't miss the cut, but he shot plus 15. He's not going to be happy this week. I think at plus 165 and then Cam Davis at plus 490. Give me that all day. See ya. Bring us home on this one.
This Cam Davis play is really interesting, just as a thought exercise, since you both have him at plus 490 to top 10. And I this is a rhetorical question, guys, but would you rather take Scottie Scheffler to win at plus 450 or Cam Davis to top 10 at plus 490? I agree with you two. It's Cam Davis, right?
All day.
And that's why I said it's rhetorical, because I think these are the type of thought exercises that you and the audience in the chat as well can sort of get into when you're considering some of these, whether it's a short number or not. It's these top 10 markets, top 20 markets where you can kind of compare and contrast. What am I more comfortable with? What is actually a better bet? And I would agree with both of you that Cam Davis at plus 490 is a better bet than Scottie Scheffler at plus 450 to win it all. I'm going to go with 3 top 40s. So last week I gave 2 top 20s and 2 top 40s. They were all at plus money. Two of the 4 came in. So you won a little bit. It wasn't anything outstanding, but you won a little bit in this department. And this is what I'm looking for here too. Some plus money, try to hit 2 out of 4, but certainly with the possibility, in my opinion, of hitting 3 out of 4 here. Joseph Bramlett at plus 100. The metrics are screaming to me on Joseph Bramlett. I really like him. He has been a topic on this show before. In fact, I think our first round leader was Joseph Bramlett a couple of months ago on this show. Really like him at plus 100, top 40. Hayden Buckley is very interesting at plus 100. If you look at his strokes gain metrics, you'll see off the tee, it's great. You'll see approach, it's great. You'll see putting, it's great. It's the around the green play that really becomes a problem for him. Here, I think he can probably get away with it. It's not the hardest around the green test. So Hayden Buckley, all the metrics are screaming at me, including the putter at plus 100, top 40. Really like that. I think he could maybe top 20. Consider him in DFS at 7,300. Christian Bezaden, there's that name again, plus 115. By the way, he was 15th here last year. So he has the pedigree here, and I really like his form coming in. Love the course fit. Top 20, I'm going with Justin Rose, plus 140. I think he can win this tournament, but I definitely think at plus 140, you're getting a steal in the top 20 market.
I say this a lot on the early edge, but I think I mean it more on the early wedge. When you get this information, I write it down too, because maybe Hayden Buckley's not your guy this week, but take all that information and go in 2 weeks. Oh, this is what Sia said before the Charles Schwab. See how that works? See how you have the information? Knowledge is power, especially in this business. Take a little time. Give yourself a little effort. All right? Speaking of effort, it's now time to get to the big money. The money that if you can possibly hit one of these, just like we did last week, just like we did Aaron Ryan, it doesn't matter if it's pre-tournament or it's live. Cash is just the same. The winner. Who's going to raise the trophy? Who's going to get a 1973 Ford Bronco this year? Because every winner gets a vintage car, and it changes every single year. Did you know that, EC?
I had no idea. I know the ugly jacket that they get, but not the car.
And in related news, EC will never be invited to the Colonial because he hates their jacket, and that's what they believe in the most. Good job, Eric Cohen. Good job.
It's not aesthetically pleasing. It's a good. It's cool.
Would you say the same thing about the green jacket?
Oh, absolutely not. That's cool as heck. I would absolutely want one of those.
All right. See you, Nejad. Start us off. Who do you think could possibly raise the trophy this week?
Justin Rose plus 2,500. I'll note that if you read the front end of my SportsLine article, the back end of it will be published later today, but the front end is usually published Monday night. Which of course would have been yesterday, but we could have gotten Justin Rose. I got Justin Rose at plus 3,300. It's now at a more reasonable number of plus 2,500. I still like it there because I like Justin Rose this week, but just keep in mind, these markets come out on Monday. We give out some, it's not just me on SportsLine. There's plenty of people that are giving out a ton of stuff early in the week on Justin Rose. It's funny, Coach. I have to do an aside here. So Garrett Ratonia says, just call Sia Casey Kasem providing us with America's top 40. So if I may paraphrase, of all people, Seal, who sang a very famous song, Kiss from a Rose, with respect to my Justin Rose pick at plus 2,500 or plus 3,300 if you're a SportsLine member, now that your rose is in bloom, a bet hits the window that pays. Run that in your head. It'll make sense. Justin Rose plus 2,500. Cam Davis plus 3,500. We all like Cam Davis. He is really popping. We saw it in round 4 specifically at the PGA Championship. Cam Davis is not only back, but he's actually a pretty good fit for these shorter courses, which I think is something that people don't realize. But a guy with his length, he's pretty good on these short courses. Denny McCarthy plus 5,500. I think we're falling asleep on Denny McCarthy here. The ball striking is pretty good, and we know he can get super hot with the putter. This is a very good number on a guy that I think has the pedigree to win. Taylor Moore, speaking of winning, he's done it before. He can do it again. Plus 6,500. Has to find a hot putter, but he's done that before, and the ball striking is great. I'm willing to ignore his breakdown. I guess it was round 3 of the PGA Championship where he threw his driver and he threw a fit, and it got all viral on Twitter. It'll be a comeback story this week because he can win at plus 6,500.
The frustration from some of the players last week was palpable. Boy, did some guys just get fired up. It was a long week. EC, you're up.
I said I wouldn't do it for a while, but I just can't help myself. Colin Morikawa, after the Tournament of Champions, when he had that tournament locked up, and then Jon Rahm chased him down and Morikawa couldn't chip, looked like my chipping game on approach there by the greens at Kapalua. I said I wouldn't bet him until he won again. Well, I just can't help myself. He's gained strokes on approach in his last 10 stroke play tournaments. The last tournament, though, that he didn't was that Tournament of Champions where he almost won. I feel like he's getting closer. Now, in 3 times here, he's gained 20 or more strokes, or more than 20 strokes combined on approach, which is a really good stat to have at Colonial. Key is the putter. In 2020, when he finished second here, he gained almost 3.5 shots putting. If he can do that again, watch out. I don't love the odds. This might be one of my parlay strategies, but I do like Morikawa. He's got to win one of these, guys. I mean, he's got to get on the board this summer. It's been a couple of years. I hate to do it, but I'm going to play him a lot this summer, I feel like, until he wins. Max Homa, we talked about him last year. He's plus 2,200. Last year, he gained in every statistical category en route to a T23. Since then, when he's done that, he's gone T5, 1, T20, 1, T6, T8. So basically, if he repeats what he did last year, he's going in the top 10. And he has 2 wins in the last 6 times that he's done that. It's pretty good. His putter has been sizzling lately. And as I mentioned earlier, there are 11 approaches here that could be from sub 150 range. He's top 45 in proximity, 100 to 125 yards on the PGA Tour this year, and top 20 in proximity from 126 to 150. Those are stats that I like at Colonial. Then we talked about Cam Davis. All of us agree this is kind of the guy that we can all agree is going to pop this week. 7th year last year, 4th the PGA, gained strokes off the tee in 10 straight tournaments. Last week, almost 5 shots gained off the tee. Almost 5 shots gained on approach. Almost 4 shots gained around the green. Putting's been a problem. He's lost strokes in 9 of his last 12. But if he putts well this week, watch out. As I said earlier, he may pop.
See, do we not pride ourselves here at the Early Wedge and the Early Edge on trying to educate and entertain so everybody, every bettor at every level can understand and participate? Isn't that our motto at the show?
That is literally our motto, yes.
Literally our motto. So do you think there's a universe that we would ever live in, that we would tell a fan at home that's taking the time out of their busy lives to watch little old us? Would we ever tell them, Sia, just bet him until he wins?
Yes.
Well, if I may, Coach.
Please, Sia, you go.
Coach, if I may, he said, I hate to do it, but I'm just going to bet him until he wins. So even the guy giving out the pick hates the pick, but he's going to keep doing it.
I am a hypocrite here, and I will own it because I went on the Early Wedge in January or February, and I said, I will not bet this guy again. And I lied.
Now,
I'm sorry.
I will say this, that when Morikawa started, 4 or 5 years ago, if you would have bet $100 on him to win for the first 18 months, you would have cleared $14,000. That's how often he was winning. Now he's dropped off. I think Cam Davis is getting ready to be in that category. Let's get ahead of Cam Davis because he's going to start winning. And he won in Detroit already. But I think he's going to get on fire. So I think Cam Davis is the new Colin Morikawa. LaMelo, I saw your question in the chat as well. Morikawa plus 100 over Hovland. I wouldn't mind that. I think Hovland's not going to have a good week this week. I wouldn't mind Morikawa over Hovland wherever you have that at your book. So thank you for the question. All right. Now, we have one more section to get to. And this is where anything can be thrown in there. Long shots to make the cut, top American, top European. It could be anything. So, Nejad, how about we have you start this time, sir?
We get a really nice number on Christian Bezuidenhout. Like, listen, I do think EC is right, Coach. I think you're right to take some of the shorter odds, 30 to 1. I think you can go 55, 65 to 1. Which is where, of course, Taylor Moore and Denny McCarthy are, because I do think those two guys, and there's a smattering of others that are live to win at those odds. when you get to 80-1, it's kind of, you kind of get in one of those situations where it's like, is it really realistic? And that's why I put him in the long shot section. But listen, he does have the game to win here. Again, 15th last year, but it's the approach game and it's the putter. If those are dialed in for anybody, they can win this tournament. And Seabez has the pedigree, I think, to close on a Sunday if guys like Scotty Scheffler end up stumbling and are sort of out of contention. Speaking of putter and speaking of approach, I've got 2 first-round leader long shots that I think are live. These are both in the morning. One I probably like more than the other, and it's the one that has the shorter odds at 110-1. I don't know if anybody's noticing here, but Chez Reavie, his game is back. From the Chez Reavie we knew and loved like 3 or 4 years ago, where the shorter courses, he'd be dialed in on approach, he'd be okay with the putter. The putter he has completely turned around. It's been 5 or 6 tournaments in a row where Reavie is putting really well and gaining in a super appreciable way. And the approach game is back for Reavie as well. So at 110-1, I think he's live to be a first-round leader. I honestly do. And for the record, he's been contending at the RBC Heritage, at the Valero Texas Open, top 12 in both of those. Chad Ramey's a guy that just keeps surprising us, particularly early on leaderboards. He's not going to be there on Sunday. He's probably not going to be there on Saturday. But at 130-1, I'm willing to speculate as a long shot first-round leader that Chad Ramey can splash the pot, if you will, for 18 holes.
All right. Fantastic. And thank you, Sia, for being a professional, especially in this particular segment. By the way, you guys saw that I picked Sam Burns. I didn't even need to talk about it. You also saw I picked Sepp Straka in the winner section. And the reason I waited is because I have Sepp Straka here, plus 2,000, to be the top European. I wrote down just a few names that he would have to beat to cash plus 2,000. Remember what Sia said about comparing different numbers and different guys? He would have to beat Hovland, Rose, Fleetwood, Jaeger. But last week, he had a great week at the PGA Championship. He shot a 65 in the final round. Sepp Straka is live right now. He is live right now. Big Cheesy says, oh, minus 210. Quite the long shot, Coach. Big Cheesy, you're here every single show. Do I not say that anything could be in this category? Do not say that every single time. Anything, right? I do. So listen, Big Cheesy, and quit being a smartass. Temporarily, because we like when you're a smartass. Now, I only do the professionals in this particular segment, so I want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen and watching the Early Wedge wherever you may be. So take these picks, use them to...
Just don't.
All right, EC. I'm going to let you go because Snake just yelled at me. I'm going to let you do your stupid parlays. You're up.
You call them stupid, Coach, but we hit last week. Now, we got lucky to hit with Xander. He closed pretty well, and we were fortunate there. So we're going to take 2 shots this week. We got one on FanDuel, and we got one on DraftKings. So you got the first one is on FanDuel, and the second one is on DraftKings, just for those of you asking. All right, so I talked about Morikawa. I think he's going to do well with his approach play this week. I like Ricky Fowler as per my showdown with Coach. As far as Sung Jae Im goes, I mean, I mentioned that he's played 7 out of his last 8 weeks, but his form here is pretty good. He has 2 top 20s and 2 missed cuts. All we need to top 20, just, don't beat our guy from earlier. Don't beat, who did I have him up against a little bit earlier? Max Homa. Thank you. Don't beat Homa. Just finish top 20 at plus 750. I think that's good value. Now, this one, I got to be honest, I absolutely love this one. The first one's like a bonus throw in just because we like Morikawa and Fowler. But man, this one, Jordan Spieth is awesome at this tournament. We haven't talked much about him. The wrist has been a problem. He showed over the weekend that the wrist really wasn't as much of a factor as we thought. I mean, this guy owns Colonial. I don't know if he wins again, but I think he's a top 10 guy for sure. Sia's talked glowingly about Justin Rose. I think that's obvious. And all of us have talked about Cam Davis. Coach, for even you who hates these, you got to love at plus 900 from what we've discussed on this show. This one is really live.
Zach says Coach secretly tails EC's parlays. Zach, I can tell you, on my children and my dog that just cost me $5,000, I do not tail his parlays.
Should.
I will never tail his parlays. And no, I shouldn't. Now, you all know we like to end every one of these shows asking my guys, what's the number one most important thing in their minds to look for this week? You can use this knowledge for this week or maybe later in the PGA Tour season. So, Sia, start us off.
I'm squarely looking at Scotty Scheffler to see if he stumbles, because again, I think live bets are in order here. And for the record, if Scotty Scheffler stumbles, maybe he is the live play, and that might not present itself on Thursday night. Maybe it presents itself on Friday night, going into Saturday morning. But I do think we should, I only had 4 outrights, 1 or 2 were kind of in the longer range. I think we can save some capital for potentially a live play here as well. And one more question. Did you know that when it snows, my eyes become large and the light that you shine can't be seen? It's Justin Rose tournament. Let's go.
Half the audience is too young to know what you're talking about. The other half is just laughing their tails off. Either way, that was funny. All right, EC, what's the one most important thing you're looking forward to this week?
Well, Sia mentioned this, and I waited all the way to bring it up, but 3 of the last 4 winners here at Colonial were plus 6,000 or higher, meaning 60-1 or higher. Sam Burns last year was plus 3,000, so 30-1. He got kind of lucky, though. The wind blew a lot in the last round, and he kind of rallied there. If not the Texan chalk, how far down the board do we have to go to find our winner? We've kind of talked about that theme all show. I think Justin Rose, Cam Davis, medium range. I'm not going 60-1, but if I did, just throwing a couple names out there. Brendan Todd, who I mentioned. How about Harris English, who's played well of late? Maybe even Justin Suh, who was pretty darn good at the PGA Championship. Just a few names that if you want some sprinkles and you believe in that trend of it being a long shot winner, worth a shot. Now, I didn't make those my plays, just throwing them out there, not on the recap screen, but, that's why you listen live.
Okay, that's right. Hashtag it pays to listen live. And the thing I'm looking forward to is this is the week that I kind of marked on my calendar. I'm not doing another event until the Rocket Mortgage in June, but this is the week that the really big tournament starts to come. Fast and furious. We got 2 more majors. We got the Memorial. We have the Travelers. That's an elevated event. We got Rory, a chance at a 3-peat in Canada. This is when the summer starts. Who are going to be the players that put the rest of the season behind them and say for the next 2.5 months, I'm going to be the guy? I encourage you to pay attention to players that are playing 3-4 weeks in a row, because those are usually the players that start to play well on week 2 or week 3. Pay attention. Really, really pay attention. Of course, we're going to help you here at the Early Wedge every single week. Okay. He can deal with that on the Twitter. Jeff says Early Edge needs an EC versus Coach golf match. No, as many of you know, I recently played with Klay Thompson. Why would I ever go out and play with EC? I play with NBA champions. You have something to say about that, EC, before I very eloquently end the show?
One day we'll have a showdown where you, if you lose, have to invite me to your club.
Ooh.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
That's career threatening.
That really, really is. They
Yeah.
love me at my club. I don't even know what they would do after that. Okay. No, we'll figure it out. I'm sure we can make something happen. We'll go to the worst public course in California. This is my club, EC. This is my club. All right. What another great show. Great job by you two, as always. And I can tell you this, that this week is going to be a lot of fun. This week is going to be kind of a fall. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch these players rebound from a really, really hard, long golf course into a target golf course. It's a completely different game this week. So be sure and be careful. So with all that being said, there's only one thing left to do, and I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these Charles Schwab tickets straight to the pay window. For my attacker, Lobo, EC, Counselor, the snake always behind the scenes on the ones and the twos. I am simply the coach, trying to keep this train on the track. We love golf, and we love that you love golf as well. We grind for you so we can win with you. It's what we're all about at the Early Edge, and also right here at the Early Wedge. Good luck.